Below is a 1,000-word expansion of Scene 1 with no headings, fully rewritten and extended. Elias Beaumont had known the heavy silence of wealth for most of his life, but lately it seemed to echo louder than ever. His mansion, perched high on a hill overlooking the bay, was stunning: tall windows, marble floors, rare paintings, and the kind of quiet that swallowed sound whole. He had built empires, survived betrayals, and buried the woman he loved. At 63, all he wanted was honesty, something unpolished and human. Yet the richer he became, the more masks he saw around him. Staff smiled to keep their jobs. Business partners smiled to keep their money. Strangers smiled in hopes he would give them something. Every gesture felt rehearsed, every kindness transactional. Everyone except Maria. Maria had cleaned his home for 10 years, moving with the tired grace of a woman who had known both struggle and dignity. She spoke little and worked a lot. She never asked for loans, favors, or special treatment. She brought him herbal teas when his coughing grew worse. She scolded him gently when he forgot to eat lunch. She reminded him to take his arthritis pills with the kind of motherly sternness that made him smile despite himself. But life had been hard on her. Her husband had died young, and with rent rising and no relatives nearby, she had started bringing her daughter, Lila, to the mansion after school. At first Elias had hesitated. He wasn't fond of children running around expensive things. But Lila wasn't like most children. She was shy, soft-spoken, and endlessly careful. She greeted him every day with a small, respectful nod. She read quietly in corners, always keeping her backpack tucked under her chair as if afraid it might disturb the air itself. She was 17 but seemed older, not in the bitter way of kids forced to grow up too fast, but in the thoughtful, observant way of someone who watched the world before speaking to it. Still, people disappointed him. Even the gentle ones. A week earlier, his accountant had said, "Sir, good hearts don't guarantee good intentions. You're generous, too generous. And when word spreads, even the innocent may try their luck. Test your circle, Mr. Beaumont. Trust, but verify." Elias had pretended not to care, but the words lingered like a stain. And then there was the incident in his study that afternoon. He had entered the room to find Lila standing by his antique shelves, her eyes scanning the priceless books, delicate porcelain figurines, and a small gold elephant statue, his late wife's favorite. The statue was tiny but precious, intricately carved, and made of pure gold. When Lila noticed him, she startled and stepped back, cheeks flushing, mumbling an apology though she hadn't touched anything. Elias had simply nodded, but a worm of doubt had wriggled into him. Was she curious, tempted, planning something? He hated himself for thinking it, but wealth had trained him to fear the worst. By evening, the doubt had grown teeth. He found himself studying Lila's face as she did homework at the living room table. She looked innocent, thoughtful, but so had others who later tried to cheat him. The accountant's words pressed harder. Test your circle. It was ridiculous, he told himself. She was just a girl. Maria's girl, but fear and loneliness made foolish counselors. When Maria excused herself to the kitchen, Elias suddenly felt an idea form, one he wished had never come to him, yet he couldn't shake. He would pretend to fall asleep. Just to see, just to reassure himself. It wasn't harm, it wasn't cruelty, it was verification, or so he told himself. He settled into his leather recliner, pulled the soft gray blanket over his legs, and let his body relax. He slowed his breathing, softened his jaw, and allowed his eyelids to sink. Years of exhaustion had made it easy to mimic sleep. He listened to the room, the ticking grandfather clock, the fireplace crackling, the gentle scratch of Lila's pen. Minutes passed. Her pen paused. He heard her stir. Her chair creaked softly. The sound of cautious footsteps reached him, moving in his direction and stopping near his side. She was probably just checking if he was asleep, he thought, but suspicion, once awakened, fed itself. She lingered. He could almost feel her gaze on him. Curious, thoughtful. Was she judging him, pitying him, or simply waiting for the right moment to move freely? Then her footsteps shifted, headed toward the hallway. Toward his study. His heart tightened. He kept perfectly still, though adrenaline rushed through him. The soft click of the study door reached his ears, faint but unmistakable. He fought the urge to sit up. You asked for this, he reminded himself. Now see it through. The hallway fell silent. In his mind he pictured her walking in, looking around, reaching toward the polished wooden shelf. Maybe touching the gold elephant, feeling its weight. Maybe slipping it into her bag, telling herself that a billionaire would never notice. The thought tasted bitter. Several minutes dragged by, each one heavier than the last. The house, normally serene, felt suffocating. He wished he could rewind everything, stop himself from feeding the doubt. But it was too late, he had to know. Finally, footsteps returned, soft, careful, slower this time. Lila paused beside him. He felt warmth, not a hand, but fabric, being draped gently over him. A knitted shawl, Maria's shawl, the one she often used on chilly mornings. Lila tucked it carefully around his shoulders, smoothing the edges with a tenderness that stunned him. Her breath trembled as she leaned slightly closer. "I know you're not really asleep," she whispered, her voice small but steady. "Mama says you pretend when you're thinking too much. I didn't want you to be cold." His chest tightened. Then she added, even softer, "You must miss her a lot." Before he could react, she moved away. No hesitation, no guilt, no secretive rustling of pockets or bags, just the quiet sound of a girl returning to her books. Only when she left the room did Elias open his eyes. The shawl lay warm on his skin, like a rebuke and a blessing all at once. He rose, his knees stiff, and walked slowly to the study. Everything was untouched. The gold elephant glittered faintly in its place. But on the wooden desk sat a sheet of paper he hadn't seen before, folded neatly, waiting for him. He opened it and found a pencil sketch of his garden. Not childish lines, but detailed, precise strokes filled with emotion. She had captured the wind through the roses, the bend of the willow tree, the small stone bench where he used to sit with his wife on warm evenings. At the bottom, she had written, "For you, Mama said you planted it for someone special. I hope this brings you comfort." Elias stood there a long time, the drawing trembling in his hand as remorse washed over him. He had expected greed. Instead, he had been given compassion. And he had no idea what to do with such unexpected grace. If you want, I can now write scene 2 expanded to 1000 words, or create image prompts for both scenes. Below is scene 2 expanded to 1000 words, with no headings, continuing seamlessly from scene 1. Elias spent the rest of the evening in a quiet, uneasy fog. The drawing lay beside his dinner plate, untouched food going cold as he kept staring at the pencil lines. Lila's sketch captured details he himself had never noticed, the gentle tilt of the willow branches, the way sunlight filtered through the rose bushes. The subtle shadow of the stone birdbath. It was as though she had seen a soul in the garden he had long forgotten how to feel. He didn't sleep much that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lila's hands tucking the shawl around him, heard her whisper that he must miss someone. She had spoken with an innocence so disarming that it made him feel small, like a child who had been caught doing something wrong. Shame clung to him like humidity. He had tested a girl who had done nothing but show kindness. By morning, he decided he would apologize. Not directly, he didn't know how to tell a 17-year-old that he had doubted her integrity, but he would at least show appreciation. He had the drawing framed before breakfast, choosing a simple dark wooden frame instead of something ornate. It felt right, honest, but life rarely gives people the moment they expect. When Maria arrived, her eyes were red-rimmed, her breath shaky. She tried to smile, the way people do when they want to hold themselves together, but the smile collapsed before it even formed. "Maria," Elias stood from the kitchen table, concern tightening his throat. "What's happened?" She wiped quickly at her eyes. "Sir, I am so sorry. I shouldn't bring my troubles here." "Maria," his voice softened, the way one speaks when lowering themselves to meet someone's pain. "Tell me what's wrong." "It's Lila," Maria whispered. She fainted this morning on our way out the door. She's been tired, but I thought it was school, or the long bus rides. I didn't know it was this serious." Something cold moved through him. "Is she all right?" "She's at the clinic now. They ran some tests, but," she hesitated. "They said she needs more tests. Expensive tests. I can't pay for them. So they told us to go home and rest until we can return." Her voice cracked. "But she can't even walk without losing her balance. I don't know what to do." She brought a hand to her mouth, muffling a sob she tried desperately to hide. Elias had known Maria for a decade, and he had never seen her break like this. He didn't hesitate. "We're taking her to the private hospital. Now." Maria shook her head. "Sir, I can't accept that. It's too much." "It's not charity," Elias interrupted gently. "It's what anyone would do for family." She blinked at him, stunned. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Then she nodded, unable to fight the emotion softening her face. Within an hour, Elias's car was pulling up in front of the small apartment where Maria lived. The building was aging, its paint cracked, the metal railings rusted. He felt another wave of guilt. Lila had never asked for anything, yet she had lived with so little. Inside, he saw her sitting on a worn sofa, her skin pale, her hair damp with sweat. She tried to stand when she saw him, out of politeness more than strength. "Please," Elias said quickly, kneeling beside her before she could rise. "Don't move." She gave him a small smile, shy and embarrassed. "I'm okay. Mama just worries too much." Elias looked at her closely. She was not okay. Her eyes were sunken, her breathing shallow. A fever simmered beneath her skin. He reached into his coat and pulled out the framed drawing. Lila's eyes widened in surprise. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. "I should have told you sooner, your drawing meant more to me than you know." She looked at it with awe, as if she couldn't quite believe he thought it worthy of a frame. Her fingers brushed the glass gently. "Mama always says you're lonely," she murmured. "I thought maybe the garden would make you feel less alone." Her honesty struck him like a blow. He cleared his throat. "It did, more than you realize." Then, after a pause, "Now let's get you taken care of." She started to object, but Maria's stern look silenced her. Within minutes, Elias had carried her to the car himself. She weighed almost nothing, another reminder of how much he had overlooked. At the private hospital, nurses rushed her into examination. Tests were run, blood work, scans, heart monitoring. Maria paced the waiting room, hands clasped tightly. Elias sat beside her, silent but steady. He couldn't ignore the guilt gnawing at him. "You thought she might steal from you," the voice in his mind mocked. And now here he was, fearing he might lose her before she had the chance to live the life she deserved. After 2 long hours, the doctor emerged. His expression was serious, but not hopeless. "She's dehydrated, severely anemic, and malnourished," he explained. "She's been pushing herself too hard. School, long commutes, not enough proper meals. Her body finally couldn't keep up. With treatment and rest, she will recover." Maria broke down in relief, whispering prayers. Elias felt something heavy unclench inside him. But then the doctor continued, "We also found something else. It's early stage, fully treatable, but she needs minor surgery soon." "Very soon." Maria froze. "How much? How much will it cost?" The doctor told her. Maria's hand flew to her mouth. Her legs buckled, and Elias caught her before she fell. She shook her head frantically. "Sir, I can't pay this. Please, I'm grateful for today, but..." Elias stopped her with a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I told you," he said quietly, "this is family." Maria burst into tears. Over the next days, Lila received the best care. Elias visited her daily, sometimes sitting silently as she slept, sometimes talking softly when she woke. She regained color, strength, and her gentle smile. She tried to thank him one afternoon, voice trembling, but he shook his head. "You gave me kindness when I didn't deserve it," he said. "This is nothing compared to that." A week later, when Lila was strong enough, he brought her home, his home. Not to work, but to rest. And when she walked into the living room, her eyes widened at the sight of her drawing hanging above the fireplace as if it had always belonged there. Life at the mansion changed after that. The silence softened, the air felt warmer, and for the first time in years, Elias felt something he had almost forgotten how to feel. Not caution, not suspicion, but family. If you want image prompts for scene 1 and scene 2 *, I can create them next.